Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gameweek 17 pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zofar, and if you're watching us after a while and wondering where Prus' glasses are, I think the man on the thumbnail might have grabbed them earlier. How are you doing, Prus?
It's good. I saw it early, 6 months ago. I saw that people are getting feisty with glasses. So I was like, just get rid of that stuff, It's not
Yeah.
worth it. Nice thumbnail. Yeah, shout out to Varun for
Yeah,
the
he
nice
did it
thumbnail.
last minute, that because once he
Yeah.
had the Cunha ban announced, like, we gotta go with that. Not ban,
This
sorry,
is
there's
an
a
AI
charge.
image, right?
No, I'm not even sure. I think it is like a Photoshop image, but I should clarify he's not been banned yet, just charged. We'll talk about that soon. But how's your game week, Prus?
Gameweek was a little bit like middling. I think this was one of those weeks where everybody, if you were a red arrow, maybe 5-6 points below average. If you're a green arrow, you're basically 7-8 points above average.
Small deviances.
Small. If you had Lewis Hall, you're on a green arrow. If you don't have, let's say, one of the midfielders or a Cunha or an Isak, then it is a red arrow. So not much in it this week, I suppose.
Pretty much. A lot to talk about now in terms of defense, midfields, and forward. Let's just jump right into it.
Let's do it. I think it's quite timely to do this because there's actually decisions at every position. So let's do it.
Exactly. First up, our scout plug.
Yep. So all data that you'll see, and there will be data on the defenders, midfielders, and forwards today, is all from the FF Scout members area. And if you want to join, the link will be in the description on the video. And as we've said in the past, it's a great tool. We use it every single week, and we love it. So join in if you can.
Absolutely. And as you guys know, NordVPN has been a long-term partner of the FPL Wire. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your country, you can access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 bonus months on top. TV Showtime, Pras, what have you been watching?
Your recommendation, Senna. I finished episode 4. So good, man. Like it's keeps you, it's very gripping, keeps you on the edge, even though you know where it's going, but it's a great story, and I'm loving it so far.
Yeah, fantastic. I haven't really been watching much. I'm just in the last stages of Indiana Jones, so just been gaming still.
I mean, I have one recommendation for people in outside the UK who on January 1st, there is a show called Traitors. And my Twitter account will basically turn into Traitors account from January because I love it. Like I love the game theory element of the show. So if you haven't watched it, get NordVPN and get on it because it's on, I think, iPlayer or ITV, one of the two. And it's a great show. I really like it.
I don't think I can manage waiting week by week. I think I'm going to let a few episodes build up and then binge watch. It's too.
So they do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah, it's not that much like, it's not like Apple. So you could still get on it.
Definitely looking forward to. I think they're doing an Indian spin-off also. I read. That'll be fun.
I don't know how much they work. Like some Indian spin-offs just don't work. Like, the Master Chefs and some of the, there was also this, what is it? Who Dares Wins or whatever. They called it Khatro Ka Khiladi or whatever. It just doesn't work. Just not the same thing, but maybe it does.
We'll give it a try.
Yeah.
So Nord also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below.
I see some people in the chat. LR is in the chat. So LR is obviously still in Dharmkot. Some nice size photos being shared. Obviously, we have the other ones in WhatsApp, which we won't reveal, but he's having a good time. I see Buna is in the chat. Don't believe if that's Buna or not. Just don't believe anything that has Buna written on it. He got a few people, I think, on Cunha. I got some DMs like 2 minutes before the deadline. Cunha is benched. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure about that? And obviously it was Buna.
Yeah, he almost got FPL Harry with that. That was really close.
He almost took him out.
Yep. I think Harry went to the transfers page, and I think somebody in the chat alerted him, and he just backed out.
I've had to block Buna now, basically, because even muting is not enough now. And it's fine because block, you can still see the tweets now, right? I mean, the way X has changed now, it's okay. So I don't feel bad blocking. I mean, I love the guy. I've met him many, many times. But unfortunately, FPL comes first.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of FPL, let's tell our viewers about what's happening with the Cunha ban. This news now has just come out a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, so, I mean, what happened to Wolves at the end of the game, man? I mean, that was both Ait-Nouri and Cunha, almost as if they knew that people are about to take them out of their FPL teams, completely lost it. Like that was a head loss of a different level.
It's interesting. I think probably the players are just under a lot of stress. I guess that's the only way you can contextualize it. It's such a charged game, and there's been a dip in performances, and I guess they knew that the manager was going to go after this, so it's just sort of a collective breakdown. But long story short, for audio guys who can't see, so Cunha has been charged with misconduct following that match, and now he has till Thursday, December 19th, to provide a response. Now, if he pleads guilty, the ban will likely be immediate, but if he contests it, there's a chance that the ban could be delayed now past the Leicester game. There is some sort of precedence to that. Do you think they'll risk that price to be available for this game? But either way, I guess we'll know on Friday, right? There's no point speculating.
We'll find out on Friday. But if we are speculating, then I would say, look, if you have to look at the next few games, which is by far the most important, it's the Leicester game. Like that's the relegation scrap. There's 3 points there for the taking. Even if it means 1 or 2 extra games, like, look, I'm not Wolves. But if I was them, I would say, guys, just let him play Leicester. If we win that, it's way more important than 1 extra game. But then I'm a biased owner. So what do you think?
I think they just don't have a leg to stand on. The evidence is right there. All you can do is plead guilty and ask for leniency. Right? That's the route I would take. Just ask for okay, fine, I made a mistake. Just shorten the length of the ban, or don't appeal the actual punishment. Or appeal the length of the ban. That's what they did with Bentancur as well.
Yeah. So they could do that. I mean, basically wait until Thursday. I think Baker tweeted this. Wait until 11 p.m. on Thursday. Then say, okay, we want to appeal the length of the ban. It shouldn't be this long. And then you hope that they don't say anything on Friday, and then you basically get away with it. Maybe that's the route. But I think, like you said at the beginning, the message for anyone who owns Cunha is chill. Like, if he has already dropped or he's about to drop, but I don't even have a sale value loss.
He's not been flagged, right? The thing is, once he gets flagged is when the transfers will really fly, and that's not happened yet.
Yeah. So I feel like, it's fine to keep him, wait for the Friday news. I'm actually, when we'll come to my team, I might even keep him beyond, even if he is banned, because I think there's other strikers
Depends
I
on
want.
The length of it.
And well, no, I mean, I would rather take him out next week for a striker like Mateta, who has good fixtures and he has Arsenal this week, than taking him out for this week, some strikers. We'll talk about them that may or may not have the minutes. So it's a little bit of you don't have to deal with the problem this week necessarily.
Right. And let's talk about the minutes, because the schedule now coming up now. Obviously, now this week, most of the teams are playing in the Carabao Cup, and we had Slot's press conference today. He indicated that it's going to be a lot of young players, a lot of B team players you don't usually see in the starting 11. I think Newcastle might go strong. Apart from that, you'd expect most teams to rotate. Maybe Palace won't, but again, Arsenal, I expect them to play a weaker team. So I don't think rotation is going to be as much of a problem going into game week 17. But then again, we have a short turnaround for game week 18, the Boxing Day games. And since we have more time to discuss that, we wanted to contextualize that, because it's important to keep this in mind now when you're picking your defenders, mids or forwards, because minutes are going to be a concern now. Again, you can see the recovery time for 17 to 18 for most clubs is good. That is from the weekend to Boxing Day. But 18 to 19 is very, very tricky for some. Let's look at some of the clubs that you see right at the top over there that have the tricky turnarounds. You see Liverpool with 67.5 hours. Obviously, let's talk about the clubs that are fantasy relevant to us, right? Most of Fulham with 70 hours that they play, and that fixture at 70 hours is Chelsea. They play Southampton in this weekend, so you might see easier guys play. Let's say Muniz play Southampton, Raul saved for Chelsea. Leicester, again, very short turnaround. You have to keep that in mind. Not as much for Leicester players, but for the teams that play them. I'm not sure who plays them in 18. Spurs, again, have the shortest turnaround combined. Couple of teams actually have it very, very easy. It's, for example, Arsenal and Brentford, you look at right at the bottom, is because I think for game week 19, they have the midweek game. I think they play on the Wednesday. For them, naturally, then game week 20, the turnaround is a little bit shorter than the rest.
Correct. So they spread out the Boxing Day games, right? Not everything is on the 26th, some are 27th as well. So I think, look, couple of things I want to say is, in terms of Carabao Cup, I actually think that Spurs and Man United and Newcastle. So you mentioned Newcastle. I just wanted to add Spurs and Man United as well. This is, for me, more important than even the league. Like, maybe this is controversial to say. Like, all their managers, all the 3 managers want the trophy. And they can smell that there is an opportunity for a trophy this year if they do well. Like Postecoglou has said many times, I always win in my second year, whatever, something he comes out and says, right? He's not winning anything else, right? So, okay, there's a chance in Europa League, but Carabao Cup, he has to go for it. He even rested people, like Son came on off at halftime. So I feel they will go for it. Man United will absolutely go for it, because I think they will that's what Amorim has done. He plays his best team. There is no second team yet. So I think Ahmad, people like Ahmad, people like Bruno, I expect them all to play on Thursday. Then you have Newcastle. I think Newcastle anyway are thin, right? I mean, they can't rotate too much anyway. So I think those three teams will be strong. But does it really matter? Like you say, between Carabao Cup and the midweek game, the weekend game, there is enough of a rest. And then even I would argue after that, right? I think usually over the December period, what happens is Saturday, Sunday games happen, and then Boxing Day is like Tuesday. So then you see like some games are really tight. They have 1 or 2 days in between. This is like normal. Like 70 hours is the equivalent of playing on a Wednesday and on a Saturday. Or a Thursday or a Sunday, which every team does. Like apart from the bottom half teams, every team is used to playing those games. So I think the question mark becomes in players that are little bit on the periphery that usually rotate. I'm thinking of people like a Johnson, people like Chelsea players. We can have a discussion on them. Will there be a week where Maresca will decide, okay, this is my B team game? Somebody like a Raul Jimenez. These are players that don't start every single game, start most games, but are more susceptible than others. Other players who start every game should start every game here as well. Like there'll be less surprises in this midweek and game week 18 than actually the one that we saw earlier, where there was actually mass rotation.
So it's interesting because Neil's chart over here actually doesn't mention the Carabao Cup games. For example, it says Newcastle now have 118 hours. That doesn't include for the Carabao Cup game. For example, the Carabao Cup game is on Wednesday, then they play on Saturday. So that turnaround over there is a little bit misleading. Let's have a closer look at this Lego Mane one. Like you mentioned, Spurs have a short turnaround before they play Liverpool. They're going to likely go very strong. Palace, again, Arsenal have the short turnaround, but again, they have a little bit of depth over there. Manchester United is something we have to keep in mind, but I think, for example, Ahmad, he might actually bench him this week and play Rashford and Garnacho, who didn't make it on the weekend. Things like that. Because a lot of teams, they have the depth to rotate. That makes a big difference. Newcastle don't really have that.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are very high on some of the names we're taking, Raul, Ahmad, Jackson, but these are just facts that they are not nailed for every single game. So, and I could even include Enzo in this. I mean, I'm not trying to have an owner's bias, but there's a difference between these players than other players who pretty much play every single game. Like, when we talk about the defense, midfield and forward options, let's keep this stuff in mind because not every team will play their first 11 in all the three.
Right. Let's look at some of the clubs that are relevant to us, especially. Let's start with Chelsea from the top over. Now, Chelsea plays Shamrock Rovers in the Conference League on Thursday. Very much B team. Nkunku, etc. is going to play. And Everton away is a tough game. He's not going to mess about. You're going to see all the starters play Everton. Now, Fulham is now then on the Thursday, a decent turnaround. And then we have Ipswich on the Monday. So Chelsea have been quite generous in terms of the turnaround. We've gotten quite lucky. But you do expect now one of these games Nkunku to feature. Now, you'd have to argue that Ipswich away is easier than Fulham at home, what we've seen. But again, you can't really predict that. It could be that he prefers Nkunku in the home game, Jackson in the away game. So Jackson is a little bit risky, I think, in the short term, but good for the long term. You'd expect him to miss one of these, right?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely is for the fact that he's great long term. No issues at all. But yes, there is a chance that he misses one of those games, notwithstanding that he could get a yellow anyway in one of those games, and it's a defined rest, which may not be actually the worst thing because then the owners know exactly when.
Exactly. I definitely have that certainty in mind because you never know. He definitely plays Everton, but then he could miss Fulham, could miss Ipswich. Then you don't really know.
Exactly. But I think he's fine. Like we are getting into a territory where everybody has good 8 attackers. And if one of those games you have to put out a Rodgers or an Enzo if Jackson misses out, not the end of the world. So I think it's fine. But yes, I think Chelsea is one team that have shown us in the past, like even Sanchez may not be safe in one of these games. That's just what he does. Even though he said Sanchez is his first choice, Maresca has got into this mode of how I used to play Championship Manager when I've made too many signings that you have like a A team, B team, midweek you play B team, and in the weekends you play the A team. So when there is a midweek Premier League game, there is always a risk with Chelsea.
Let's look at Manchester United. Now you guys have Bournemouth in Gameweek 17. That's on the Sunday. Then you have, who do you look over here? You have Wolves and then Newcastle. So spacing is generous. What do you think about rotation for somebody like Ahmad over there? You think he's going to start all three? I think so. The fact that he's young and sort of played himself into the team now, I think he sticks for a bit.
So, look, there is a Man United fan in me and there is a boring FPL manager fan person in me. So, I'm going to give you both views. The Man United fan, he's the guy. He's the man. Like, he is the blue-eyed boy of the team at the moment. Every fan wants him. Amorim loves him for everything that he does for the team. He's either going to play wing back or going to play in the 10. Both cases, he's got XA, XG, everything. So he's basically giving you what a Rashford gives you for half the price or 50% of the price. So what is he a good FPL pick long term? He looks like a great pick. Is he a good pick over Christmas? I don't know. Like, I can't say yet. Like, why would you use a transfer to take out a pick that is playing every minute? Let's say if that's a Rodgers, let's say it's a Semenyo. I don't know if that's worth a transfer at the moment or not, unless it is enabling something. Like, some people did the move, and no spoiler alert for LR's team. Some people needed 0.1, 0.2 to get out of Rodgers to get to another defender. I understand. But if it is a luxury move, you're seeing other people do it and you're doing it, I don't understand. Wait for 2-3 weeks. He's not going to score 500 points in 3 weeks. Watch another 3 weeks over Christmas and then make a more informed view. If you're buying him for 0.2 more, he's still excellent value. Because the problem is, it's not just about him starting or not. He could get a 55th minute. He could, it is just a time where Amorim will continue to rotate. And by the way, another side point, Antony has been very good. Like, people don't want to hear that, but Antony at right wing back has done a job every single time he's come on. You will think that given what has happened, Garnacho will still get a game. I don't know about Rashford, because some of the stories around Rashford and his behavior and whatever, maybe he never ever ends up getting a game. Mount is injured, but Bruno could play in the 10 again. So there are still enough positions there that you could still say, look, you don't have to rush it. You don't have to go for the Ahmad position. Just wait it out a couple of weeks.
Couple of other clubs we're interested in for forwards. Palace. Now, after you look at the Carabao Cup, the spacing between 17 to 18 is quite nice, but then 18 to 19 is very tight, where they play Bournemouth and Southampton. We saw Mateta pulled out, I think, at 58 or 59 minutes last weekend. Could we see an Nketiah start, Southampton at home? Very possible, I think.
So I was reading some fan forums. They think they were both Eze and Mateta were taken off because they want to go big against Arsenal. Because of the cup. So it was not that they are in any way a risk in terms of minutes. But look, if Nketiah is back and Sarr is playing really well, it becomes a little bit of a question mark.
Now, again, Fulham is another one where I'm personally interested in Jimenez as well. But again, now you have a good spacing for Southampton. 3 days for Chelsea, and then the Bournemouth game is very close again. So basically, they have 3 games from Sunday to another Sunday. So it's a usual week. It's not really too bad. But the problem is the Chelsea-Bournemouth turnaround is really short. You're talking about Thursday, Sunday over there. And with the amount of energy they expend at Chelsea, you'd expect the strikers to change between these 2 games.
I agree with you.
And another thing we have to keep in mind also, now the game week 90 to 20 spacing is quite fine. But then once we turn right after that, you have the FA Cup weekend. And then game week 21 is a midweek, followed by game week 22 on the weekend. So right after that, you also have a short turnaround where Fulham play on Wednesday, Saturday. That's also something we need to watch out for. So the spacing is not actually just for now. You have to keep the spacing in mind for the next 5 game weeks, where 2 of the turnarounds are short.
This is where, and the fact that this Muniz keeps scoring when he comes on as well, like, you can't keep them out. Look, Raul's going to miss 1. The question is which one, or maybe 2, like over the period. Like, if you can get Southampton at home out of him, you don't mind actually him missing 1 because you've got the big game.
It could easily be like he plays Muniz at Southampton versus Southampton and saves Jimenez for Chelsea, right? It's a full coin toss.
I mean, logically, he should miss midweek, but you're right. Chelsea is the harder game. And the way Jimenez played against Arsenal and even Liverpool, like, that was valuable. So,
but teams where they don't have the ball as much, he's much better. With Muniz, it's okay. Once you have possession, you can just lump balls in there for Muniz. But with Jimenez, helps you hold the ball up, distribute. Against the tougher teams, Jimenez is definitely your man.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're guessing, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
People are watching this because we are doing our guesswork on minutes. We could be right, we could be wrong. Like, I already see in the comments, there's some angry Ahmad owners. I'm not saying, like, we're just guessing that is somebody 100% nailed versus could be risky. So I think Raul Jimenez falls in the could be risky, but he has a great entry point this week. Like, how can it be better than Southampton at home? We saw what Spurs did, obviously new manager and all, but it's a great entry point if you can get the minutes right. We'll see. Maybe there's a hint on Friday.
So let's start with defenders first. We just wanted to contextualize this for our viewers, naturally in our discussion, because we are going to be mentioning turnaround. So you guys know now what the schedule is. Now you can read that along with the stats. Now this is for the last 6 matches. I'm so disappointed that Buun is suspended. In terms of non-penalty expected goal involvement, he has 2.13 over the last 6 matches. That is insane, Pras. Look at the other numbers. The other numbers you have Davis, Gusto 1.3, even Lewis Hall 1.32. Anthony Robinson is somewhere in 6th or 7th, primarily because that's all XA. There's very little goal threat there. He hasn't had a single shot in the box over the last 6 matches. So these are all defenders, obviously in the price bracket around Ait-Nouri. I haven't really looked at the premium guys. This is all below 5 million. Where are you leaning initially?
I mean, I think it's about fixtures for these guys. A lot of them, right? Like, for example, Lewis Hall is a perfectly great pick. He showed it this week. But then if you look at Lewis Hall's fixtures after this week, like he could play Ipswich. But after Ipswich, you can go back to the Isak chart because actually Hall is there as well.
Yeah.
So after this week, like I don't see a huge appeal for going for a Lewis Hall now. It almost feels like the party is over. They've cut the cake. They've had their, they've had their dinner. You're joining for the last 1 hour, which could be fun. Like you could get Hall for Ipswich away, but then Villa, Man United, Spurs, not ideal. So I feel like I'm eliminating Hall if you don't have from that equation just purely because of that. I think then it comes down to Robinson or Munoz. Both are great picks. Both are great price under 4.7, 4.8 million. Incredible value. Both offer different things. Like one is a XA machine, one is an XG machine, but I don't care. Like if you have good fixtures, you have a good chance of clean sheet and you have a good chance of return. That's the only route to defend the points these days. Like you need to get one of those hauls where they get a clean sheet and a return like a haul. Otherwise you're looking at, not great because they're not great on bonus anyway if it's just a clean sheet.
Now, obviously, with Munoz, the problem is he's suspended for this week. At Arsenal at home, I didn't even mind playing him. The way Arsenal, that could be a 0-0. He could get an attacking return. I guess if you're going to bench Nouri this week or you don't necessarily need your third defender, you could go for Munoz. But then plus the fixtures, I think, are a little bit mixed, right? I don't think they're as easy as they might initially appear, especially the next 4. Bournemouth away, I don't see necessarily a clean sheet. Southampton is good. Chelsea is good. But then after that, the run is really when it picks up. 21-22 is when they have Leicester and West Ham. So I think for Munoz, you could potentially delay it for another 4 weeks.
You could delay. Like I'm thinking of getting him game week 19, but I will not play him home to Chelsea. Like I will play Robinson. So I mean, spoiler alert, I've already got Robinson for Ait-Nouri. So I'm gonna have Ait-Nouri and Robinson. And basically the idea will be play Robinson Southampton home, play Munoz Southampton home again in 19. Play Robinson Ipswich at home and basically have the 2 options going forward in addition to my Gabriel and Trent.
So great. So you'll be playing Gabriel and Trent and the other 2 guys you plan to rotate them. But so much attacking threat plus, doesn't that seem a bit overkill? I think both Munoz and Robinson are pretty much perma play options.
Yeah, but if you have the choice, if you have the funds, like have him instead of Mikolenko. What's the problem?
Team value now comes out on the table.
Yeah. I have transfers, the team is fine. I'll have both of them. And during that period, like sometimes you need them, right? So many times, like we had this guy show up because Gabriel was missing. Like things happen, right? So I don't mind having a good first sub and a rotating first sub. But look, for other players, you could go for Robinson this week if you absolutely need a defender. And I think a lot of people agree with this and I've already done it. But if you don't need, like you mentioned, if you don't need to have a playing defender this week or you already have one, get Munoz now. It's fine. Like Bournemouth yesterday were okay. Like you could still have him playing Bournemouth. It's not the end of the world if you wanted to go earlier.
Yep. LR's in the chat and he's been mentioning Munoz is effectively playing like a striker. And yeah, this is what we dreamed of game week 1. And what's happened is the link up is now working on the right side. What happened in the earlier weeks of the season, I think he was missing Olise. They didn't really have the symmetry on the right wing. And also this was mentioned by Glasner that the whole relationship between Sarr and Munoz is blossoming, which is really helping the wing back to get forward a lot. So I think in a vacuum, if I was to pick one and he wasn't suspended, I would go Munoz over Robinson.
It's just the entry point, I think. Like, yeah, I get it. Like if you were to choose one now for the next 10 weeks, maybe I agree with you. But you feel like, if your team is in a decent enough shape and you can afford 2 transfers, then you could go for Robinson now. Like he was also insanely attacking. XA, of course. And Fulham are, at least for now, like Crystal Palace are showing signs of getting back, but I don't think they're fully there yet. Like Fulham have now shown over 16 game weeks that they're now a legit defense. Like if we need to take them seriously over good fixtures. And look at the home games, right? Southampton, Bournemouth, Ipswich are all very, very good.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at some of the data now for the defense of the last 6 matches now. XGC non-penalty. Fulham are towards the bottom, but that's primarily, I think, due to the opponents they have played. The data season long is actually very strong and is actually better away from home rather than at home. At the Cottage, every single game this season has both teams score. So that's another thing we have to keep in mind. A lot of these are home fixtures where they're obviously a little bit more attacking. Their away setup is very much deep block and set up to play on the counter. So you don't even mind playing them in those away matches.
Yep. I don't disagree. I mean, there's a lot of Ait-Nouri hate in the chat. I can see, guys, I have to keep giving this message on managing expectations of players, right? I mean, Ait-Nouri has got us 1 clean sheet, 2 attacking returns in the 7 weeks most people have owned him. What else are you expecting? The guy has delivered. In fact, his ban comes at a time when actually it was a good entry point for Robinson. Imagine if he got banned 2 weeks earlier. The guy gave us what we needed. Okay, there were some 0-pointers. It was a bad defense. We knew what we were getting into. Same thing for Cunha, man. I can't take any slander for Cunha. The guy has delivered so many points, so many bonus points. He has overachieved anything that you would have expected from a Wolves asset. So I think if people go into the same expectation from a Munoz and a Robinson, 1 assist in 4 maybe or 5, maybe a couple of clean sheets in 5, that's it. That's all you'll get. Don't expect anything more.
Any other names catch your eye in this, or should we discuss some of the picks that are a bit more expensive where people are looking to go up?
Let's spend a couple of minutes. So I talked about Newcastle already. So Hall, I don't think, in the context of fixtures, as well as Botman coming back and you don't know the burn situation, I think he's fine. He's absolutely fine. But you don't want to buy now. If people who have are happy holders, that's great. I think another one is Mazraoui or even a Man United defender. I think entry point is not too bad. Bournemouth, Wolves. But the same thing I said about Ahmad applies to anyone else, any defender. We are starting to see people who are playing, Delete is playing, Mazraoui is playing, even Dalot is playing a lot of the games. But then Amorim loves his pre-60 substitutions, especially for defenders. So it's just a little bit spooky to do it. Why do it? The defense is still developing. You don't need to go there, but that's the spot. I'm going to shout out my boy Rico Lewis. I know a lot of people sold him. But this week, Aston Villa away is the early kickoff. Next week, Everton is the early kickoff. The week after, Leicester is the early kickoff. Let's see. Let's test it. Let's beta test this week. I don't intend to play Rico Lewis this week. But if we are getting leaks, if they are the first kickoff, then I think he's an easy play. If people
18
who
and 19, I would wheel him out. Even if you don't get team leaks, it's worth a go.
So I think these are some defenders in that price bracket that you can think about. I think Gomez is not there because Konate is already there talking about a comeback early. So that option has gone away. Chelsea defenders, what's your view?
We saw last year, that's what happens, right? We don't concede a lot of chances, but we always concede the odd big chance. Sanchez had made some wonder saves. Sanchez actually was decent last game. It's probably the reason why we got the win in the end. But again, struggling to find the defender with upside, right? Cucurella was the one bombing forward this game. Next game, it could be Gusto. So there's not enough upside there. And I think you can potentially, there are picks now in attack. Now, lots of people have tripled up on Enzo, Jackson, and Palmer. I like that a lot more than potentially going for a defender because you're getting value there. I think in defense, you get picks from other teams that have the upside. I just can't recommend somebody like a Colwell who has virtually zero attacking threat. And also isn't very good for bonus, mind you.
Fair enough. I mean, Kirkes, yesterday I watched the game very closely, very attacking, insanely attacking. But then Bournemouth always find a way to concede, even though their numbers are fine. And the fixtures are now coming to an end, right? They have Crystal Palace at home and Everton home in the next 6.
Those are the only CS bankers, you'd say.
Yeah. But apart from that, nothing great. I think other one is Nottingham Forest, Milenkovic. The guy has, his attacking threat is there. Nottingham Forest, we've talked about the blind spot with Nottingham Forest. Maybe that's a defense to look at. But fixtures are still mixed, I think, for defense. Brentford away, they concede. Spurs, they concede. Everton away, they could keep a clean sheet. Wolves away, they could keep a clean sheet, although new manager, never know.
Wolves usually score. Wolves usually both two teams score. They're sort of that Leicester where every game starts 1-1.
Right. So then you have Liverpool. So look, not a great entry point, but I think those are good, solid options. Crystal Palace, if you're going for Munoz, then do that. Why go Gehi or somebody else? Although Mitchell is there as an XA guy.
Just not as much fun.
Exactly. Brighton, I think it's coming to an end, their fixtures, and they've disappointed as a defense and as an attack. We'll talk about them. And that's about it, I think. Villa's fixtures not great, and Brentford are out. So, yeah, I think that's all on the defense.
Yeah, let's just have a look in terms of actual defense difficulty. Would it surprise you to see Wolves there in third for XGC? Again, down to the opponents, I think, largely.
This is last how many?
Last 6 matches.
Yeah, so that's why they've been easily top of the ticker. Another thing, see, people with Ait-Nouri have been complaining. It's not been a bad play to have him. Like you've done well from an XG conceded point of view. Got an insanely attacking defender. Like I see people saying, "Oh my God, I've been an idiot playing Ait-Nouri for the last 4 weeks." It's okay, man. That's just outcome. Like he's decent.
Cool. I think we've discussed enough on defenders. Anything else to add? We'll move on to midfielders.
You want to talk about the more expensive ones? Like you don't have double Arsenal defense yet. People who don't have Trent, is it worth like moving funds?
Yeah,
Like last
let's-
week,
Let's
it
talk
was a
about
popular
that
move.
because Trent is interesting. The last game, I think, even though he had only one chance created, I noticed he was taking all the set pieces that I think had to do with Robertson being sent off. He did get a bit forward. I still don't mind Trent, and with Trent, a large part of it is preparing for the likely double in 24. If that wasn't a factor, I really would potentially not be looking at it. But with Arsenal, I do worry that the run is coming to end a little bit. The numbers are obviously amazing. They have like 3.6 NPXGC over the last 6, but then Palace away. Palace are on the up. You could see Palace scoring, but again, could get a clean sheet. Ipswich obviously looks like the banker there. Brentford, Brighton, Tottenham, and Villa are not great clean sheet fixtures.
They could keep 3 clean sheets in this 6.
Good.
I mean, this is the way they. All I'm saying is, like, you don't have to jump on an Arsenal defender, but all I'm saying is that if you want to make a move that fixes your team for the long term and you don't need to touch, you can do worse than picking a Trent or an Arsenal defender. Like, it comes up every single week. We can't sort of big up their. Obviously, their run has been since Gameweek 12, but even at any point, like, people were selling Gabriel for Trent last week. Gabriel comes up with a 9-pointer. This is where the points are in their team right now. Like Timber is scoring, Saliba is scoring, Gabriel is getting bonus and returns. I don't know. Like I feel, yes, I'm happy that I own one attacker because they are better attacking fixtures, I feel, but their defense is still easily the best in the league.
I agree, but also we were just talking about Robinson, Munoz. These cheaper guys are sort of perma play now. From game week 18, you could keep just one premium defender, your Gabriel or your Trent, etc., and roll out your Munoz and Robinson, and save that money, put it in attack.
Can do, but these players that look very appealing can turn out to be shit as well. Like they how many times have we been here? Like talked about a defender or a like Estupinian from the past or Ait-Nouri that we've just had, or there is potential. But fact of the matter is, Fulham could lose 2 out of the next 3 games and nobody's shocked here. So I'm saying, yes, there is a lot of potential, but there's a difference between going for an Arsenal defender where if Arsenal lose 2 out of these 6 games, that's a shock. If Fulham lose 3 out of these 6 games, no one's shocked.
Spot on.
So there is a difference.
What do you do with the money?
Yeah.
And like we're talking about now, the premium options are appealing a bit more up top, although in midfield now there's a lot of value that is emerging with the budget mids.
Exactly. Like I feel, given that we have Ahmad, Enzo, Rogers, Semenyo, Sarr, Iwobi, like a lot of the meta would just shift to 2 cheap defenders and 3 premium midfielders. Sorry, to 2 cheap midfielders and 3 premium midfielders. So like Saka, Salah, Saka, Palmer, Salah, plus 2 of these cheap guys that I've just talked about. A lot of people are going to a semi-premium striker like an Isak or a Jackson. Like the template is there. So you can still afford an Arsenal defender if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's what I said. The midfield guys actually enable that a lot. And let's talk about some of those guys that we were bigging up now. Enzo and Ahmad in particular. Now I have the data for midfielders. This is now all under 6 million. It's a bit strange. The 6 to 7 million bracket is a bit barren. Either you go above 7 or you go below 6. Some of the names over here, Sarr dominates it with 3.39. Enzo not too far behind, 2.97. Apart from that, Semenyo 2.1, potentially an injury doubt. Felt some hamstring tightness yesterday. Iwobi is one that's been impressing me. Now, in terms of minutes, if you want to attack Fulham's next few fixtures, I really like that pick. Ahmad's number has been creeping up, 1.92. A lot of that XG came in the City game. Before that, it was purely assist potential. And then Rogers, who's actually, I think, on a bit of a downward trend in terms of numbers. So I think the main midfielders we should really discuss today are Sarr, Enzo. I think Semenyo, let's not really go into. I don't think you're buying him now. Iwobi, Rogers and Ahmad. I think these 5 are the ones we really should touch upon. Let's start with Sarr. I think if you're asking me buying today, he would probably be the pick for me. Do you agree?
I mean, in 2 weeks. Same with Munoz, right? Like you don't want to buy into Arsenal. So where I am
it
is...
depends if you need money. If you're looking to fund something this week, for example, like let's say I'm looking to get out of a Semenyo, Sarr is very tempting.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go early, it's never bad. But I think like entry point this week, like Iwobi and Ahmad are better, or even Enzo, although Everton away is not the easiest. So if you were to prioritize from an entry point of view, sure, those are better. But I think overall potential ceiling, I would say Ahmad and Sarr are the highest because they have goals in them. And Ahmad, I'm putting higher because the data here includes him playing at wing back, right? There is a reasonable possibility.
There's only one game he's played in the front three.
Which is now, because now Euro is back, Mazraoui and Dalot can play wing backs. So basically that could be the future. So in terms of ceiling, I think Ahmad and Sarr have the highest ceiling by far. Like everybody else has been playing in this position for a while. I think in terms of reliability, baseline, trickling, I like Enzo because you're on corners. Like even in that game, like in this game, he was there,
forward
man.
a lot.
He was as far as Palmer most of the time, most of the attacks.
Often more forward than Palmer.
Yeah.
He's on breaking into the box. Palmer was often the one sitting playing that cross. Enzo was sort of that late Ramsey sort of role.
And what I was seeing was, like, I was seeing that game as if I had owned Madueke, Sancho or Enzo. Because let's say Palmer and Jackson are the top two, no denying that. I think Enzo is the third pick, like regardless, because those guys are still, Sancho and Madueke still have to hold a lot of width, like the whole, the way they structure, they want those wingers to be wide. So yes, they have potential, but I like Enzo a lot for that price. Now, I'm not saying this is why I'm saying Sarr and Ahmad probably have the highest ceiling, but I like that he's taking corners on one side. Those are in-swinging corners. Somebody could get it at the end of it. He has open play XA. He has open play XG. Muted. Like, I'm not saying he's Palmer levels. So I like him as probably the third. I think Roger Semenyo are also still fine. Like, nobody needs to make sideways moves. I genuinely think you don't have to make that move. Semenyo yesterday could have scored a double return. He hit the post and he got that blocked shot which Otara basically was saved. He could have had a double-digit return yesterday.
True, just a very frustrating player. And like you said, Bournemouth's run is drying up a little bit. There are a few good fixtures that are coming. Let's have a look. Manchester United probably could look to bench him. United are playing decent defensively. Now, Palace is decent. Everton is decent, but then you have Fulham away, Chelsea away, Newcastle away. It's not a perma play in these fixtures. I think somebody like an Enzo or an Ahmad is somebody you can play now every week. You look at Manchester United's fixtures, you look at Chelsea's fixtures. Even Palace to a certain extent. The Arsenal game is at home. Even the Chelsea game is at home. So these are actually not that bad fixtures for Sarr as well.
Yeah, look, Sarr I like him. I think he could turn out to be great. It's just now Nketiah has muddied things a bit. Now, again, I'm not saying Sarr is, again, people will come in the chat like Ahmad. I'm not saying Sarr, he has shown himself that he's probably first choice. But I just think that now Nketiah is in the mix. Like, Eze is going to play a lot of minutes. We haven't talked about Eze. I think he's still a great pick. Mateta is still a great pick. So then it's between Sarr and Nketiah. Whose minutes is Nketiah going to start eating up? They already used Nketiah in that Sarr position and it did not work early season. So I have no doubt in my mind that Sarr will start most of the games. In fact, he will start all of the games. But is he going to start becoming a 60, 70-minute man? This game he was not. But I feel this game was not a true representation because Eze and Mateta were taken off early because of the Carabao Cup. So I just want to see another 3 games, another 2 games at least. And then I want to, once they have played their 2 slightly tougher games, Arsenal and Bournemouth, at Gameweek 19, home to Southampton, I want to get it right. Because if you pick Sarr, Eze turns out to be the better pick, or if you pick Eze and Mateta turns out to be the better pick, I feel when Southampton home comes, I'll regret it. That's where I am with Palace at least.
That's a good shout. I think you wait a couple of weeks on Palace. I'd agree with that now that you mentioned it. Let's talk about Iwobi. I think a player that really hasn't been on anyone's FPL radars for the last few years. Is it a flash in the pan, or do you think that he's a realistic FPL option? The fixtures wise, I would say they're probably the best. Southampton, Bournemouth, Ipswich, West Ham and Leicester. You're talking about, I think, 5 of the bottom 6 teams for XGC in the next 6 matches. And minutes are very, very secure. 90 minutes every game, sometimes on the left wing, sometimes on the right wing. I read an article recently, and they're always these players, right, that then they hit a certain peak. He's talking about how he finally feels comfortable within the team, his fitness level, he's changed his trainer, dietitian, etc., etc. So this could be the best version of Iwobi we've seen so far. How much of that should we take into account?
I have to admit, it's been a blind spot. I'm not looking at him. I don't want to go there. People want to do your research and do it. I don't know. Like, he has no set pieces, no penalties. His attacking numbers are okay. It's that kind of pick which can very suddenly, after 2 blanks, becomes like, what the hell is this guy doing in my team? this is why, look, Semenyo is a great pick. Why do people not like him? Because people are watching him just open play, right? And they have no hope. If they win a penalty, it's not him. If they get a free kick or a corner, it's not him. So you just start to get frustrated a lot more by picks like these that have no other route to points than actually just looking great in certain games. You don't look great for 2 games, suddenly you're like, man, there's 5 other options for his price point. So for that reason, I'm going to say he's not in my list. But people who have him, people who've done more research, people who understand how Fulham play better than me, maybe he's a pick. So I'm not going to rule him out.
Now, what about Rodgers? A lot of people with Rodgers will be getting itchy fingers now, moving to some of these other guys who do look now that they have a lot more upside. Would you get behind that move?
It feels very luxury. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Mbeumo to Bowen as a very luxury move. Sort of turned out, right? I mean, Bowen did well, but Mbeumo also did well. So it could be the same with Rodgers to anybody else. So I don't feel like there's anything wrong. Like Rodgers has been getting minutes more than Watkins. So the problem is he's shifted out to the left now, where it doesn't mean a player becomes irrelevant when he's playing off the left. Then you look at Villa's form. Then you look at the fact that he's an old toy. You've played with this toy for 12 weeks now. He's disappointed. I've benched all 3 of his goals. So you get like this thing of staleness in your team, and you go, I can change this shirt from claret to like blue or to red, and that'll look nice. And I think there's a little bit of that in it. Like people are thinking, and the fact that he's got 2 difficult fixtures, Man City and Newcastle, people need a player. And so people will say, okay, let's take Rodgers out. But I do think it's a luxury move. Like if you're looking to do Rodgers to someone else, like they have to be other problems in your team. Otherwise, your team should be fantastic.
I think it is an upgrade though, Pras. I think if you're moving Rodgers to an Enzo or an Ahmad or even a Sarr, it is an upgrade.
It is, but I think Ait-Nouri to Robinson or Munoz is a bigger upgrade, or Cunha to a Mateta or a Solanke or any other striker, Jackson, Isak is another upgrade. So we're talking about problems in the team and fixing problems. I don't think he's a problem, because if you look at his fixtures after, he's got Brighton home, Leicester home, Everton away, all very decent. Like no problem at all playing him. Like some people are playing him home to Man City. It's not a problem.
Man City are the 18th XGC team, so you'd argue that Man City at home is an easier fixture for your attackers than Everton away.
Yeah. So you don't like, okay, so to summarize, I'm saying, yes, you could move him, because in our list, he's not in the top 3. Top 3, I think we're talking about Sarr, Ahmad, and Enzo.
In
order
that order?
Dependent.
Let's rank them. Let's say the top pick, I think right now would be
Ahmad. I would say Ahmad is the highest
Ahmad,
pick
I think we both agree on that, just because the potential to play in the front 3 is
Correct.
there.
In a very, very attacking team. So the potential for you to get him and he becomes a great pick is high. So that's why Ahmad would be number 1. I would still put Sarr and Enzo similar, because Enzo is, Sarr has upside but some risk. Enzo has lower upside, lower risk. So not much to separate between them. And then Rodgers is 4th. Like I'm removing Semenyo out of this, because I would actually put Semenyo 2nd now if price was not an object. Because still a Bournemouth good attacking team. So
his fitness, I'm a little bit concerned, Pras. Now that he went off with a tight hamstring in terms of short turnarounds, the way Bournemouth play, you might see a benching in the short
This is true. I mean, although he said it is not a hamstring, but it's tightness. But over Christmas, tightness can become like, okay, we are monitoring, like we're trying to see if it's okay. But Tavernier is also out, isn't he?
I think so. They have other players. They are a system-based team. He's not afraid to chuck somebody randomly, and he might play Unal on the wing, etc.
Fair. I was watching as a non-owner, and Semenyo looked great yesterday. Like I was scared every time he had the ball. So that's all I'm saying. I completely get the disappointments. He's not delivered the points, and in FPL, when you have lots of options and your players don't deliver points, you're fired. So I get it. But as a non-owner, I was worried, which is a good sign for owners.
Fair enough. Anything else to cover on the midfielders?
Eze, you are not keen? Like I think
we're getting a possibly more direct player with Sarr at $1 million cheaper now that he doesn't have penalties.
And corners he's lost to Hughes as well.
And set pieces he's lost as well. Again, the routes to points have come down a little bit, and he's always a player I feel has disappointed a little. He's a bit of your Tadic. He'll always post your underlying numbers, but the conversion just doesn't happen.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm repeating the Palace analysis, but I'm not yet sold on either Mateta as your. So the way I'm looking at it for my team, I'm looking at the Cunha and Rodgers slots as a pair. So you can look to either replace Rodgers with a cheap mid and get a more expensive mid like Mateta or Højlund or Solanke. Some people may have more money, can go up to Jackson. Or I'm looking to do a little bit of you bring Cunha down to like a Raul Jimenez, and then you can take Rodgers up to an Eze kind of thing. So it's like a pair.
Alternatively, you could even bring down somebody like that in midfield to, let's say, Dibbling. Southampton now have sacked the manager. They hopefully will have a new manager by the next weekend. The fixture is actually really good. We do expect some sort of bounce over there because the team had completely collapsed. Last weekend, you can see they lost faith in Martin. Now, if you want to go down to upgrade Cunha to a Jackson, I don't mind a Dibbling punt for the short term because the fixtures are really good. If your budget is really tight, 4.6, 4.7, that's probably where I'd go.
True. But it's like an even bigger punt with lower upside.
Correct. So
Like,
what
okay,
I'm
he's
thinking,
cheaper.
Pras, now like you have a 7th and 8th midfielder. Do you think now none of these guys like Ahmad or Enzo can be made into a perma play with Dibbling as the 8th? I think it's viable.
Can do. I mean, Ahmad's for sure. And so I don't know, man. 2 games he blanks again. People will start saying, "Oh, he's not great."
I mean,
Like
it's
a bit like Rodgers.
5 million mid, you get one.
Yeah, but
return in 3.
Rodgers is also 5 million mid, and everybody's losing patience with him.
Yeah, but I think plus the ceiling with Chelsea is much higher than Villa. That's the main difference. We've seen Villa's attacking numbers plummet this season by Chelsea, top of the league in terms of all the goal scoring numbers, XG, shots, goals, etc. I feel the ceiling is there with Chelsea to win those matches 4-0, 5-0. That isn't there with Rodgers as much.
Yeah, fair man. Like I have not been Rodgers' biggest fan. I've owned him all season. Not one game week I haven't owned him. I haven't got, apart from I think one assist, I've not got any returns out of him because I benched him a lot. So I get it, but I'm just saying it's not a huge issue. But look, Dibbling is an option, but you're picking a player from one of the worst teams with no route to points. Basically, you'll never play him.
Yeah, exactly. Again, that's only if I need money to go up. For example, I'm looking at Strand Larsen to Chris Wood in a week or two, in which case I need about $1 million odd. I can easily go Semenyo to Dibbling and make sort of the Boomo, the perma play along with Wood. You can sort of structure it that way also.
Correct. Then you're not comparing sort of player like for like. You're comparing, whatever. Who's that striker? Strand Larsen plus a Saar plus versus a Wood versus Wood and Dibbling. Exactly. So in that case, okay, I can still understand.
So you need money. I think that's where you potentially go. Dibbling, I think he might be on 4 or 5 yellow cards. I haven't really checked that, so do have a look at that. He's 4. He's on 4, isn't he?
Yeah, unless he's had it. Like I have no clue.
No, I think he did. I think he got it against Chelsea. He was suspended. He was suspended against Chelsea. That's what it is. I remember now. Yeah. That's when he picked it up. Cool. Let's talk forwards.
Rodgers is on 4, by the way, while we're on that topic.
Rodgers is on 4. Yep, that we did know. Yep. Forwards. I think now, again, assuming that Cunha is available for the weekend, easy keep.
Oh, yeah, of course. Like that guy, man, he's a great watch. Like watching his games, you just know he's going to take pop shots or he's going to create a chance for somebody. And as soon as he does, that's 2 bonus, confirmed, 2 or 3 bonus. Because he's the only one who's doing anything from the team and his team will always concede.
So I think if you can go to, like, let's say we don't have Isak, for example, I think he's a top target. If you need to take a hit, do what you need to, move Cunha to Isak. No compromise there. Because again, I think somebody on a Discord mentioned it. He's pretty much the 4th horseman now, alongside the 3 midfielders.
With the fixtures, with now Wilson out, so the minutes are up, Talisman, team is on the up. I agree. Like he's... Like it's actually not great for people chasing because the template gets stronger and stronger with like 4 very good, important attackers. But yeah, he feels pretty good. But then Jackson is not far behind.
Jackson, again, what I'm worried about is you miss a game over the next 3. That's the only issue with Jackson. If you can stomach that, that's fine. I like Jackson. He would possibly be the 2nd best pick, I think, amongst forwards.
I mean, I'm reading LR's message to us. Basically, I completely agree with it. Like, if you're looking to replace Cunha, then the number 1 and 2 picks are basically Isak and Jackson. Like, even if it needs... Like, let's say that is if he gets a ban, even if it needs a hit and you don't have one of those, and if you can't get to Isak, then Jackson, I think that should be the number 1 move if you can get your team structure to that.
So we were having a discussion with Baker just prior to the pod. Now, Baker is a big Wood fanboy. He was saying even if they were the same price, he would rather have Chris Wood over Nick Jackson. And the numbers are quite interesting for Chris Wood. He's somebody that, if you're into stats, you're never really going to buy. His NP XGI over the last 6 matches is 0.92. He's not even the top 20 amongst forwards, but the guy just keeps getting points. And you look at the fixtures that are coming up with the spacing, Wood's going to start all of them.
I mean, he was a toenail and one of the best saves in the Premier League away from a brace this weekend as well. Like he could have had all the points. So I don't know, man. I owned him for like 12 game weeks last year, and this season, because I have not been on his side, I hate him, and so probably my move will be also getting good this week. Now, see, we said it. Now, my only hesitation is it will ruin the pod and the listeners
We'll
if
definitely go easy on the jokes now.
exactly. We will have to basically really calm down. But if I have to move Cunha out this week, and if I'm not convinced on Raul Jimenez's minutes, he's the best entry point now. Like the tough fixtures that they've played Liverpool, they've played Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. All of them are out now. Now it's a nice run for attackers.
So that's what we mentioned. Exactly what you mentioned in terms of attackers: Brentford, Tottenham, Everton away not that great, Wolves, Liverpool again not great, Southampton. 4 of those are very good.
Exactly. So, and they're 4th in the league, and we haven't owned a player from their team the whole season. So it just feels, and he's on pens. One huge thing, like last year I went for Wood without knowing he's on pens because Morgan Gibbs-White was there. This year we've seen legit Morgan Gibbs-White was on the pitch, yet Wood took a pen. That's big.
Now going back to LR's statement, it's not that clear cut, right? I'll give you an example in my case. Now to move Strand Larsen, let's say assume it's Cunha, to a Jackson, I would have to downgrade Bumo, who we've all seen now for this sort of period might be very useful. The last weekend I saw against Chelsea playing up top, took all corners, even with Damsgaard on the pitch, plays 90-95 minutes, absolutely no concern over there, versus selling a Semenyo to a Dibbling like I just discussed, which is not as much of a downgrade because he becomes my 8th attacker. So to move Cunha to Jackson, you might need to have to sell your 7th attacker rather than your 8th. So there is some sort of difference there.
Fair. Yeah, I get it. It's not that straightforward. People's team values are not there. But our job is sort of to tell people that your forward line, if your forward line doesn't contain Jackson or Isak, that should be a priority rather than looking at who should I just replace Cunha with. I think that's the way to think about it.
I think
if you
one
can't
of them,
get there,
absolutely no-brainer. 2 of them, it could be a little bit of stretch, especially a lot of us have invested money into Trent now. So pulling it out becomes a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But again, top pick, he had out 6 or 7 shots last game. Missed the easiest one, scored probably the toughest one. Just
Seriously.
Jackson things.
Exactly. That open goal, I was like, man, how is he doing this?
Still got 3 bonus somehow. I couldn't believe that. I think probably Bumo hadn't scored, he would have gotten none. So fine margins in that sense as well.
Who was on bonus? I don't check mid-game week bonuses, but if Bumo hadn't scored, then who was on bonus?
Kukurea?
The defenders?
Kukurea. The defenders, and I think whoever scored the other goal. Who scored the first goal? Yeah, Kukurea did score the first goal, but apart from that, it was just the defense. Palmer was on 3 as well prior to that. No, Palmer wasn't. That was after the Bumo goal.
Right.
But yeah, it was all the defense.
So there's a tier, right? There's Isak, Jackson. Let's talk about the next tier. So we talked about Wood. We talked about, let's talk about like these other guys like Ivan Nilsson, Wissa. Who else is there? Jimenez we talked about a little bit. I think no one is going Strand Larsen. People don't want João Pedro anymore. So
that being said, if you don't have João Pedro, I don't mind.
You get João Pedro, man.
You move him down from Cunha, I don't mind that.
Get João Pedro. People don't like him, but he'll do fine.
He might be better in the tougher fixtures. I think, and now Hertzler would have realized he needs to play one of Welbeck or Ferguson to really unlock João Pedro. He's not as good in the 9. Evan Nelson's stock has gone down a little bit for me. I really don't think I'll be buying him now. Bournemouth's fixtures are drying up. I think Unal is just waiting there for a start in one of these weeks.
This is the thing. Like yesterday, his free kick was incredible. He will take up some minutes. I think, again, he's a fine pick. But the difference between a Evan Nilsson and a João Pedro is basically João Pedro is pretty much your guy. He's on penalties. Again, route to points, right? And he's cheap. I feel Evan Nilsson is a little bit more expensive, not on penalties, won't play as many minutes. João Pedro played 90 minutes. It's hard to convince people on João Pedro right now, just like it was hard to convince them not to captain him 4 weeks ago. So I think there's a balanced view again. His points will come.
Right. Let's talk Mateta. Mateta and I think Raul are potentially going to be quite popular with Mateta. Would you like to enter this week? Because against the sideways, I think most people can afford him in one free transfer with Cunha. It's about the same price.
I am hesitant. Like I want to see, like with Nketiah back, was it really a rest for Arsenal, or was it really a fact that he's not happy with Mateta or whatever? So I just don't know if you can enter either Eze or Mateta. I would even say Sar, but Sar I can get because Sar has form, so his minutes are not going to drop off that easily. The other two guys, they are still not there yet for me. So I would wait if you want to go for Mateta, and that's the classic case where even if you have Cunha, you don't have to sell him this week. You could wait a week, especially if you don't have a sale value loss and you have a good 8th attacker.
That's fair. Let's talk Raul. I think nobody mentioned the schedule, but at 5.5, you could potentially stomach a benching if it does happen, just because the fixtures are so good. You'd expect him to play 4 of the next 6.
If it's 5, I can get on board. If it's 4, that gets very bad, right? Like there's other strikers in that price. Like you're then going against Chris Wood, who will play 6 out of 6, probably. That feels not great.
I agree. But at 5.5, I think if you're going sub 6, that's pretty much, I think, the pick I like. 6 to 7 would be Wood. Then around 7 plus, I think we both not that keen on Mateta. And of course, the
Not
two guys
yet.
above it.
Not yet. What about Solanke?
Like
I know people have lost
Like you see what happened
the
against
shine.
Spurs, man. I think we did the stats review today. He had 1 shot in the box. 0 chances created against Southampton. Underlying numbers just aren't there. Very frustrating pick to own.
Just don't understand. How can Spurs be one of the most attacking teams in the league but not have a pick from their team?
Because they spread the goals around. Let's just go back to now that chart. Now we have the Talisman theory chart. Yeah, over here now. You look at Spurs. They're right on top, like you mentioned, but look at the split over there. Son, Solanke, Brennan, Maddison. It's quite even. That's the main problem, right? At least now, let's you look at Fulham. Jimenez has a big chunk with Iwobi catching up. Let's look at Palace now. Over here, we have Palace on this list. Mateta has a large chunk. Sar is catching up. You have to keep in mind that Sar, with a very short stint in the team.
Yeah, he didn't play all the games.
He's catching up. Wood obviously is everything. Pretty much you see all of the Forest XG is all Chris Wood. Vardy we're not really touching with the fixture congestion. Don't expect starts.
Good entry point this week though.
A lot of early subs, etc. But yeah, good entry point this week. Similar to Raul, you just have to expect the odd benching now and then because I think Daka is fit now.
Yeah, I got him in draft, not ours. Højlund. So this guy mentions.
Yeah, let's talk about him. Few in the Discord were big on Højlund.
Shikhar is also mentioning Højlund. Look, Højlund is the more expensive Ahmad, where I think it is fairly clear that he's first choice. Will he start every game? No. Will he get 70, 80 minutes every game? No. But if you look at the Man City game, he could have had a penalty. I think he should have had a penalty, which was not given. The Bruno chance that Bruno missed, the 1-on-1, that was created by Højlund. So this is not the Højlund pre-Amorim where he was not getting involved in the goals. He will be involved in the goals. I think my main issue is just minutes and alternative options. If Højlund is like Ahmad, a 5 million striker, we go, okay, get Højlund, man. It's amazing. But if you're getting Højlund, then you're not getting a Chris Wood. Then you're not getting somebody else like a Mateta or a Raul. That's my bigger issue. So I think he's a decent pick, but no real route to points. Minutes are not as secure. Makes it a little bit, so I can get some Man United fans getting very excited on Højlund and picking him, and I think he's an okay pick. But to think that he's a better pick with other strikers that are on penalties, also on good fixtures, also with good minutes, I'm not certain.
To round up this section, there are top replacements. I'll just mention them. Isak, Jackson, Wood. Below 6, Raul.
João Pedro and Raul.
João Pedro. I think I'm not doing enough service to João Pedro since he's pretty much in most of our teams. But yeah, João Pedro above Raul, I think.
I mean, yeah. Again, people are getting angry looking at our views. But these are our views, man. João Pedro is good.
What are they upset about? What have we said this time?
He's blanked 3 times or whatever. And so because they don't like him.
The minutes,
although he got an assist last game, no?
I think he got an assist the game before that. Or maybe I think one of the last 3 games he has got an assist.
1 in 3. That's
for 5.5
okay.
And on penalties, getting nailed minutes is fine.
He'll get penalties. Some players we didn't talk about that are rubbish and are not worth talking about, but people will ask. So Murphy, minutes not there, so no point.
No point. Flash in the pan.
Kudus.
West Ham are taking a lot of shots with very poor quality shots. The XG numbers aren't racking up. I think the fixtures have also dried up a little bit. The best fixtures are past them now.
Just the Southampton away is left now, which is good. Yeah. But then Liverpool, Man City.
Liverpool, Man City, Fulham, as we've seen, are pretty good. Palace, a bit mixed. I think you're better off going for your cheaper guys. Your Enzo Ahmad's offer something similar to what Kudus does now.
Fair.
That's the thing, right? I mean, even in that 6 to 7 now has to justify the price now with these cheaper guys putting their hands up.
Agreed. So slightly more expensive in strikers, Havertz. If you have Havertz, what do you do?
I mean, Arsenal have gone full Atletico, man. I think there was a good segment on Monday Night Football also yesterday about how the open play XG is the lowest it's been in a long, long time. And Havertz just isn't really contributing. So why would you buy into that attack now? I think Saka is just enough. You're using up your defensive spots with Arsenal, right? I think you want as many defenders as you can get. LR's thriving there with a triple Arsenal defense and ignoring Saka.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still think Saka is there. Like
Obviously.
You can go triple defense because their defense is elite, but I think going Havertz over Saka, no chance. I don't think you need to go there. Saka is taking the corner, so he's getting 50% of assists on their corner threat. He's on penalties, so Saka is not a debate. But Havertz, I think, is looking poor, man. Like with all the other options in his price bracket, like if you went Havertz instead of Jackson or Isak, like you've got nothing to show for it.
Yep. Not on the forwards, but talk to me a little bit about Jota. He's somebody I'm interested in that's on my radar. And Slot mentioned in his press conference that Jota again couldn't train after the last game, so he's going to be on the bench versus Southampton. And again, we saw Liverpool's schedule. It's a little bit tricky. The Leicester game has a nice turnaround, but right after that, you have West Ham with a short turnaround again, 67.5 hours. Bit risky during this period, I think.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. We've got Jota, we've bought Diaz. It sounds great. It feels great to own them. But when they actually start playing, they miss one chance, and it's then the 50th minute you start watching who's coming on. Is it going to be for Jota? Again, like it could turn out great for that short period. Like I see people saying, okay, that Boxing Day fixture against Leicester, I'll get Mbomo to Jota. I like it. Yeah, it could work out, but I just don't think that's a long-term pick there. Like he's never going to play 80 minutes, 90 minutes. He's a great pick. Like I wish he was fit, and I wish you could say that he's great, but you're taking a risk. So you may get rewards, but just know that you're taking a massive risk, and it could work out, it could not work out. And having done this twice with Jota and Diaz, I just know how this story goes.
It's a bit risky. I was looking at him potentially as an out for Bumo, especially for the Leicester fixture, but I'm not confident he'd start both Leicester and West Ham in that turnaround.
Yeah, and then Europe will start, and then the games, even the cups become important. So second half of the season, these kind of players, you just don't know where they will lose their minutes. Is it the league?
Keep the
Is it the
spot
cup?
free for 24, I guess, right? We might have an injury by then.
That was going to be my second point, which is basically I feel still, look, people who look at Jota are maybe people who have not gone Trent. They have the funds in that midfield slot, maybe. So, okay, if you wanted to do that just as a punt, but I feel like get a Liverpool defender, man. Like Liverpool defenders are great. If you don't like Trent, don't get Trent. Get Van Dijk, get Alisson. Like have one Liverpool defender because they are probably the first or second best defense. It's good to have one of their picks. Then you want Salah. Then my strategy is leave it because only yesterday, for example, and this is all, we said in the assistant manager chip that these numbers people are still evaluating. The number one slot for picking a player is basically, during that chip, is basically Gameweek 24, 25, 26, where you have slot, and then you move him on to Eddie Howe, who has Nottingham Forest at home in 26. So 24, 25, 26 could turn out to be the optimal use of the I keep saying asset management, the assistant manager chip. And so why would you want to block yourself out of it?
Yeah, I guess especially like if you already use your triple captain, that's probably your ideal window. You look to play a couple of other names in the forwards you should just touch upon. One of them is Wissa. I think the fixtures are turning a little bit. I guess you say the home fixtures are still all right. They play the tougher teams at home. He does score, but doesn't feel like somebody I want to buy into right now.
Nah, I wouldn't. Like all the home fixtures are now fixtures where they won't get a lot of breathing room. But again, different from Mbumo, set pieces, penalties. But Wissa without them, and then especially if they play two up top, right? Who knows whose minutes does Thiago eat if Thiago comes on?
On Shadow also, like the last game, Shadow came on. I think Thiago was having some sort of injury the last game. That's why he didn't make the squad. And Duran, there's just too much uncertainty there with Watkins. Unless Watkins is perma-injured, you just don't look at Duran.
Exactly.
Let's touch on captaincy before we do our bus teams.
There was a couple of super chats as well. We can get to them before our team as well.
Yep. This is, I think, captaincy, the main candidates this week against Salah Palmer.
I think so. And after what Everton did to Arsenal, I think everyone's going to be on Salah, personally.
I think that's what Baker mentioned on his part. Salah will get 2 or 3 big chances. You can't guarantee that with Chelsea at Everton.
Exactly. Like, I feel they both have similar, or Salah has better goal threat, and maybe you could argue that Palmer has slightly better attacking threat, assist threat, although Salah's been fantastic with his chance creation as well this year. And then you add to that the bonus. Like, okay, it's going to be this week. I see no reason to go against Salah. Like last week, there was a little bit of, okay, maybe I can push it because it's a slightly better fixture. Got lucky that Robertson got sent off. I just feel this week you don't need to do it.
I agree. Salah all the way for me. Anything differential that interests you apart from the big guys?
Isak, red hot form, Ipswich. Ipswich at home, usually go for it. But then Newcastle away could, like Ipswich could win 1-0 and nobody's shocked, right? Like I feel Isak should do well, but you just have difficulty trusting Newcastle away from home.
Yeah, it's a tricky one this week. I don't really see anybody else you could really go. In the Brentford guys, Forest have been so good defensively. You don't want to really punt over there for captaincy.
Exactly.
Cool. Let's do our sleeper plug.
Yep. So is this is the Premier League one, right?
Yes. Premier League Pick'em.
So I mean, there's still a lot of game weeks left in January. So if you basically join this league, all you have to do, by the way, Pick'em is picking the result, is a great warm up to the assistant manager chip, because assistant manager chip is essentially picking the result and you being right on a result. So if nothing else, if you want to practice your assistant manager chip, download the app, get on this, and try to predict the results for all of the 10 games in the weekend, and see what you would do if you were to go a little bit different. If you wanted to pick a differential, maybe even keep a note if there are 5 positions difference, and then see if you're right. Like this week, Man United would have got the bonus, the 10-point bonus. They would have got the victory bonus, which is 6 points. They scored 2 goals. That's 18. That's an 18-point haul for Amorim this week if you went for him.
Yeah, good warm-up. And like I said to you guys in the Discord who have been topping this every month, we're going to be coming to you when the assistant manager chip comes around.
Exactly.
Cool. A like and subscribe plug, Press, before our bus teams.
So I can see 762 people watching. So if you like what you're watching, would please like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Where are we? We're 34.5, 34.4 almost 34.5. So only 500 more subscribers and we would get to 35K, which would be really nice if we can get there by the year end. So if you're listening to this on your Spotify or on, just come back later, come to the channel, just do a subscribe. It helps us out. It doesn't cost you anything.
Thanks for that, Pras. Now we have LR's team over here. He's already made 2 transfers. I think one of them is for a hit. He's got Ahmad in for Rogers, which has allowed him money for Robinson in for Ait-Nouri. So his team is Raya, Timber, Gabriel, Robinson, Salah Cap, the double Chelsea mids Palmer, Enzo, Ahmad, Joao Pedro, Isak, and Haaland. That team is fire, bro.
It's very nice. Very nice team. I mean, in his case, the Rogers to Ahmad move.
Don't look at the bench, but yeah.
In his case, the Rogers to Ahmad move made sense because he couldn't otherwise afford Robinson, right? So he had to do that, and he took a hit for it. But that's the LR style. So I get it in that case. But if you're sitting with Rogers and you don't have to play him, I don't think you need to jump on Ahmad straight away. Again, dependent on what you like. I can talk for myself. I would not be doing that unless you have to play Ahmad. Like in my case, if I had Cunha and he's banned and you don't want to replace Cunha yet, okay, you could start to do that. But this particular team, I like it, man. Triple Arsenal defense.
It's crazy how you could get like your Haaland and your 3 big guys with the double Arsenal defense, triple Arsenal defense, in fact, and Isak.
It has everything. Everything apart from Trent and Saka, but you don't have to have them.
Exactly. Trent, I think I'm a little bit underwhelmed after investing him last week, but obviously once he's in now, you have to be patient. The returns will come eventually. This is now your team, Pras.
So I have got Raya. I also made the Ait-Nouri to Robinson move. Just made sense. I have Gabriel and I have Trent and I have Saka, Enzo, Palmer, Salah, Cunha, Isak, Joao Pedro. So I have one more free transfer left and I have 0.9 in the bank. So if Cunha is fine, then I don't need to do anything. I roll another free transfer. If Cunha is not fine, then I could basically also do Rogers to Ahmad and not play Cunha. and take another week to assess between our friend Mateta or Sar or whatever, or I could do Cunha to Chris Wood. So it would be one of those two moves.
To get from Cunha to Jackson, how much money do you need? I don't know what Cunha's sell value is for you.
Another 0.5 I would need, or 0.4.
So you have to go Rodgers to a dud. Like a dibble.
Yes. And that would be a hit then. So I would not do that.
Yeah, I can't get behind that. I guess you could go Rodgers to Amar, but if Cunha is going to be out for, let's say, 3 to 4 matches, you just get it done with, right? I mean,
no, because then I get Mateta next week. If I'm happy with Mateta.
I mean, you could get Mateta this week, see if he gets something against Arsenal rather than playing Rodgers, right?
Next week, maybe Mateta is not the right pick and I go Wood instead. So this week, I took another week to decide between who to get for Cunha. I could even get Solanke next week. Solanke is playing Liverpool. After this, Solanke is fine. So there are other options that open up if I wait a week. That would be the only reason I could play
against Man City at home.
Or I could play Rodgers.
That's a decent move. And I think, you're good in position with Rico next week because I have Robinson and I'm worried about next week. I'm in a bit of trouble. I'll show you my team. So I've also used one of my 2 free transfers. I've moved Nouri in for Robinson. I had only 0.1 in the bank, so it's exact money for me at 0.0 now. Flecken in goal, Trent, Gabriel, Robinson, Bumo, Salah Cap, Palmer, Saka, Strand Larson, who I hope can benefit now from a bit of a new manager bounce, Isak and Joao Pedro. So the forwards as such look good on paper. They're playing the bottom XGC sides. Could do all right. So I've been thinking for a few weeks now earlier to sell Bumo, but I think I might just keep him now for the next 3 to 4 weeks. We lost you, Pras. I think your audio is muted.
Sorry, my kids keep coming into the room. So I think both Bumo and Bruno, our view has been consistent through all the pods that even with tougher fixtures, when you have 90 minutes men's on penalties, they are not your biggest issue. So they're fine. Like they could do well in certain weeks, they could disappoint in a couple of weeks, but they never become immediate sells. They never become immediate buys unless there's a whole sea of green fixtures. So Mbumo is in that category. Like you don't need to deal with him. Keep him. When it becomes a problem or you need funds elsewhere, then use him. I think it was a fine exit point last week for some people that did it away to Chelsea. And this week is not a good exit point. He's home to Nottingham Forest and Bruno's home to Bournemouth. Next week, again, some people will start thinking about Bumo out because it's an away fixture. I think that's just how it will be. And I think at any point, if you want to sell now, it's fair if it's improving your team elsewhere. Yes. Or if it's hold, it's also fine.
Because was one free transfer, I can't really improve this team. But next week, I have to take either Strand Larson to Wood or Jackson. And the downgrade depends. Now, if I go Semenyo down to a Dibbling or a Bumo down to, let's say, one of the big guys. Like your Ahmad, etc., then I can get to Jackson. No, in fact, I can't. I have 4.7 on this, so I'd have to go Dibbling, and then let's say play Semenyo home to Palace, which is not bad. But I think I'm more in favor of keeping Bumo and downgrading Semenyo to Dibbling because then I still have a decent front seven who are all relatively nailed in terms of minutes. Once I bring Wood in there, I don't necessarily.
So you would get Semenyo down to Dibbling and Strand Larson to Wood, not Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would need a lot more money for Jackson. I can't even go to Enzo or an Ahmad. For Bumo down, I'd only afford a 4.7 mid if I want to go to Jackson. So that's a significant downgrade then.
I think it's fine. Like, they're all good picks, right? So Jackson will score goals, Wood will score goals. Like,
Jackson,
it's not like
after Gameweek 20 is when I'd possibly look to invest a bit later, not right now.
Agreed.
Cool. Let's address some of the super chats that we had.
I'm just opening it 1 sec. All right. So first one from Emre Kappa. Hello to him. Excellent point, pod as usual. Would you take a hit to get Jimenez if Cunha gets banned this week? So this is a popular question actually because people have already done the Ait-Nouri to Robinson or Ait-Nouri to someone, but they had only one free transfer. So would you then take a hit to take Cunha out or just play Rodgers?
I'd play Rodgers.
I would play Rodgers as well.
Because you don't know with Jimenez. I still have a bad feeling that Buun could start that one.
Correct. So I guess it goes to your read of what you want to do with that position. If you're convinced on Raul Jimenez, then do it. I think this week is a good point and you release some funds and you can use it to upgrade your defense or your midfield later. But if you're not convinced on Raul Jimenez and then he ends up not playing and then you could have played Rodgers, you've not only used up a hit, you have also taken that move where you could have gone somewhere else for that attacking slot. So you've also lost a transfer. So I feel then be patient.
How about a spin on that? Let's say, what about a hit for Rodgers to Abad?
So this is what I was saying. I could do that as my second move. It could be more doable, but then what are you saving the, like, I guess you could wait for Cunha to someone else. But if you don't have money left,
Yeah.
if
It's
you
not
have money
getting you
left,
money, right? Rogers to Ahmad isn't
Yeah.
getting you money to go anywhere from Cunha.
exactly. If it was releasing funds, you could say, okay, next week then you can buy Solanke or Mateta, like I was talking about. But if you don't have a lot of funds, then maybe not.
Yeah. I think Rogers against City is a good play. Because Villa, I don't think they have anything midweek either. They have full
No,
rest
they
this
have
time.
actually a rest. They have a rest after a long time.
Yeah. PC gamer tag, Gabriel T.A. Robinson for Ait-Nouri is good. I guess that's his backline he's mentioning. Yeah, that's pretty decent backline. That's what I've got.
I mean, those are the 3 upside picks at the moment. Like one Arsenal defender, one Liverpool defender, and an insanely good attacking defender with good fixtures.
Yep. Cool. Let's wrap up.
All right, so we have our team selection. I see LR also asked for a thumb. So LR will also have his team selection. Again, no pressure if he can get to it.
LR is doing his team selection. He did mention that.
Yeah, so then you and I will also do one.
No, I'm actually not doing my team selection this week. I'm
Oh
traveling.
yeah, you're off to Singapore, right?
Yep.
When are you off? Tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay. Well, so your moves are already made. So you're basically all set. I will do mine later. I'm going to probably wait till the end of the Man United Spurs game, so Thursday night. So I'll do mine on Thursday night. And we will see you all next week, even though it's a midweek games, but we will be there.
So
some of us will
days,
be there.
Yes, it's Boxing Days on the 26th. I think we'll probably do, it's what, a Tuesday deadline? Let's do it before Christmas. We'll probably do it on Monday then, this week.
Yeah, we'll find time.
Yeah, we'll schedule something. Cool, but there definitely will be a pod. Thanks again for joining us. Hit like and subscribe. Have a good game week. We'll see you next.
Thank you all.
Do we have to wish Merry Christmas in advance? Let's just do that as well, because Merry Christmas to everybody in advance.
We'll pod before, man. But
yeah,
okay, Merry Christmas to everyone. If we don't hear from you, Merry Christmas to you, and Zoff, enjoy your break.
Cheers. Thanks, buddy. See you guys next week.